Imagine waking up every day and realizing that the only thing holding you back isn't the only thing holding you back, isn't the world, isn't your circumstances, isn't luck. It's the part of you that's still negotiating with weakness. The voice telling you later, maybe not yet. What if you decided today that your weak side gets zero say in your life? That one choice could change everything. The danger of bargaining with your fears and excuses is far greater than most people realize because it doesn't look dangerous at first. It feels reasonable. It feels harmless. It feels like you're being kind to yourself. You tell yourself you're just tired. You say you'll start when things calm down. You promise you'll try harder next week. And in those small, subtle moments, you believe you're making a balanced decision. But what you're really doing is entering into a contract with the weakest part of yourself. Fear is incredibly persuasive. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't demand, it suggests. It tells you to wait until you're more confident, more prepared, more certain. Excuses operate the same way. They sound logical, they sound intelligent, they sound protective, and that's why they're so powerful. They disguise themselves as wisdom when they're actually avoidance. Every time you negotiate with fear, you reinforce its authority. Every time you say maybe later, you teach your brain that discomfort is something to escape, not something to move through. And here's the hidden cost. You start shrinking your standards to match your comfort. Instead of expanding to meet your goals, you reduce your goals to protect your current identity. Bargaining with your weak side creates a dangerous pattern. First, you delay action. Then you justify the delay. Then you normalize it. Before long, hesitation becomes your default response. You don't even realize you're doing it. You begin to believe that your circumstances are the problem when in reality, the real issue is the internal agreement you've made with fear. The more you negotiate, the more your confidence erodes. Is not built by thinking about action. It's built by taking about action. It's built by taking action despite resistance. When you constantly compromise with your excuses, you deny yourself the very experiences that would prove you're capable. You rob yourself of evidence that you can handle pressure, uncertainty, and risk. And the most dangerous part, your weak side grows stronger with every compromise. It learns your patterns. It learns your patterns. It learns your triggers. It becomes quicker at offering alternatives that feel safe and familiar. What started as a small exception becomes a lifestyle of hesitation. What started as one delayed decision becomes a habit of retreating from growth. The danger isn't just that you miss opportunities. The real danger is that you slowly become someone who doesn't trust their own word. You promise yourself you'll show up, and you don't. You commit internally, and then you pull back. Over time, your self-respect begins to fade. Not because you lack ability, but because you keep choosing comfort over courage. The hidden cost of comfort and procrastination is not just lost time. It is lost identity. Comfort feels good in the moment. It gives you relief. It protects you from stress, pressure, and uncertainty. But what most people fail to see is that comfort, when chosen too often, slowly becomes a cage. It conditions you to prefer ease over growth and familiarity over expansion. And procrastination is simply comfort wearing a disguise. You say you work better under pressure. You say you need more clarity. You say you're waiting for the right mood or the right timing. But the truth is rarely about timing. It's about avoiding discomfort. Taking action requires energy. It requires focus. It forces you to confront the possibility of failure, rejection, or imperfection. Procrastination offers a temporary escape from those feelings. It allows you to stay safe a little longer. The cost, however, compounds quietly. Each time you choose comfort over progress, you weaken your momentum. Success thrives on motion. Once you stop moving forward, even slightly, inertia begins to take over. Tasks grow heavier. Goals feel more distant. The very thing you avoided becomes larger in your mind than it ever was in reality. Of comfort also reshapes your standards. What once felt urgent becomes optional. What once felt exciting becomes overwhelming. You start negotiating down your ambitions so they align with your current level of effort. Instead of raising your discipline to match your dreams, you lower your dreams to match your discipline. That shift is subtle but powerful. Procrastination steals more than productivity. It steals confidence. Confidence is built when you prove to yourself that you can act even when you don't feel like it. When you repeatedly delay, you build evidence in the opposite direction. You teach yourself that your feelings dictate your actions. Over time, this pattern reduces your sense of control. You begin to believe you lack motivation when in reality you've trained yourself to wait for it. Comfort is not the enemy when it is earned and intentional. Rest is necessary, recovery is essential, but chronic comfort is different. It becomes a pattern of avoidance. It prioritizes short-term relief over long-term fulfillment, and the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes almost to step outside of it. The hidden cost is measured in unrealized potential. It shows up in ideas never executed, opportunities never pursued, and growth never experienced. It appears in the quiet frustration of knowing you are capable of more but repeatedly choosing less. It builds regret not in dramatic moments, but in small daily decisions that slowly drift you away from the person you could become. The power of radical self-leadership and identity shift begins the moment you stop trying to control your circumstances and start commanding yourself. Most people are waiting for motivation, waiting for clarity, waiting for the perfect emotional state before they move. But self-leadership is not about waiting for the right feeling. It's about deciding who you are regardless of how you feel. It's about becoming the authority in your own life instead of being ruled by moods, impulses, or temporary setbacks. Radical self-leadership means you hold yourself accountable at a level that makes excuses irrelevant. You don't ask, do I feel like it? You ask, who am I committed to being? That single shift changes everything. When your identity is weak, your habits are fragile. When your identity is strong, your habits align naturally. If you see yourself as someone who tries, you'll act when it's convenient. If you see yourself as someone who executes, you act whether it's convenient. Enter not. An identity shift is powerful because behavior always follows belief. You can set goals all day long, but if your internal story doesn't match the outcome, you'll sabotage yourself. If deep down you believe you're inconsistent, you'll find ways to prove it true. If you believe you're disciplined, resilient, and capable, your mind starts looking for evidence to support that version of you. The brain wants consistency. It wants your actions to align with your self-image. Radical self-leadership requires ownership without blame. It means you stop pointing to circumstances, other people, or past experiences as the reason for your current results. It doesn't mean those factors don't exist. It means you refuse to let them define your future. You take responsibility not because it's fair, but because it's empowering. Responsibility gives you leverage. When you own your response, you gain control over your direction. This kind of leadership is not loud. It's not about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about keeping promises you make when no one is watching. It's about aligning your daily actions with the standards you claim to value. And every time you follow through, you reinforce a new identity. The shift happens through repetition. Small wins stack up. Each disciplined action becomes proof that you are becoming someone stronger. Over time, the variation of you that once felt forced becomes natural. The discipline that once required effort becomes part of who you are. And when your identity evolves, your decisions change automatically. Your standards rise and your results begin to reflect the leader you have chosen to become. The decision that separates average from unstoppable is not made in the world, it is made inside your mind. It is quiet, personal, and unglamorous, yet it carries more weight than any external circumstance, resource, or opportunity. Most people believe that success comes from talent, luck, or timing, but the truth is far simpler. It comes from a single, unwavering decision to refuse compromise with anything less than your full potential. This is the moment when you stop negotiating with fear, doubt, and the weakest version of yourself and start commanding your life with clarity and purpose. That decision is not a one-time event. It is a commitment repeated daily, sometimes hourly, in the choices you make when no one is watching. When the alarm goes off and you feel like sleeping in, that is the battlefield. When a challenging project threatens your confidence, that is the battlefield. When you face criticism, rejection, or uncertainty, that is the battlefield. In every instance, The unstoppable person makes a conscious choice to act in alignment with their higher standards, regardless of temporary D. Is comfort or hesitation? What most people fail to recognize is that mediocrity is seductive. It promises comfort, predictability, and the illusion of safety. It whispers that good enough is enough. It convinces you that avoiding struggle is smarter than pursuing greatness. But every time you settle for good enough, you are training yourself to tolerate less than what you are capable of achieving. You are signaling to your mind and body that limits are acceptable, and over time, that small concession becomes a habit, a pattern, a way of being. It creates a framework in which fear, uncertainty, and resistance are not obstacles to be negotiated with. They are signals that you are moving in the right direction. When you commit to being unstoppable, hesitation loses its power. Excuses lose their influence. You no longer wait for the perfect conditions because you understand that excellence is forged in action, not in comfort. You start to recognize that the life you desire is not found by accommodating weakness, but by overcoming it. This decision also redefines your relationship with struggle. Instead of avoiding it, you embrace it as necessary growth. You start to see every challenge as an opportunity to reinforce your standards and strengthen your resolve. You begin to live with a level of accountability and self-mastery that elevates your performance naturally. It is the difference between reacting to life and designing your life. It is the difference between drifting through circumstances and leading them. Once made, this decision reshapes everything. Your energy, your focus, your choices, and your momentum. The person you were yesterday no longer dictates your actions today. You become a force unwilling to compromise with fear, doubt, or weakness. And in that refusal, you unlock potential that the average person never even considers.